Madam, welcome to the ANN podcast.
Thank you, Karan. Pleasure to be here.
A pleasure to have you as well.
Thank you.
What is your general feel of the aviation sector in our country? I mean, in the last week alone, we have some news that confuses somebody. We had a man who dressed up as a woman and got on a plane somewhere in Java, I think. We also had the suspension of about 3 captains, maybe, or 3 pilots. In addition to that, last week or so ago, we had an Air India flight that was perilously close to domestic airlines. So, don't you sometimes worry about the Nepalese aviation sector when you hear things like these?
Obviously, being in this industry for last 2.3 decades, we have seen a lot of such things as such. And obviously, there is always a room for improvement. So, in terms of having this set of, rules and regulations and having this very strong authority or bodies to govern all these rules, to make sure that, these are strictly followed, and also making people aware of things, and how do we communicate in terms of all this kind of things is happening in terms of media communications part. So, a lot more to be done for this particular aviation sectors in Nepal.
One of the things that generally worries me, and this is on touching upon your point about the awareness related to aviation, we don't seem to have a particular program, say on television or a weekly column like that of horoscopes. You might have something on sports, you have something on economics in the daily papers, but you hardly hear anything about the aviation sector. And most people, and normal people in general, don't have any idea about how this section runs. So, when you're working as the country manager of a particular airlines, do they also focus on public awareness? Or how does it go?
It was more into commercial that time, and I was with Etihad Airways. But if there is any opportunity of any such kind of events, then obviously we would like to, do the partnership. So it's all about how do we collaborate with this kind of events that comes on board. I mean, especially on air or radio, televisions, so or any other media. So we could look into that perspective of having partnership and tie-ups.
You said that you worked in the Etihad Airlines. Did you also get a chance to work in any of the domestic airlines in our country?
No, I started with Gulf Air back in 2000, and then after I was with GDS, Global Distribution System. So that distributes the airline system to the travel companies. So after that, I joined Etihad as the country switcher for Nepal.
What are some of the differences that you might have seen, say, between the Gulf Air and Etihad Airlines in terms of the department that you're working in?
Right. So Gulf Air was that time basically focusing on labor traffic. So we do have student segments and more of VFR. But as a brand, Etihad stand out because it was more into premium segments. And its product, like that, was very differentiated with Gulf. So, that was the main difference.
So what kind of products, say, for example, you said that there are a few products that separate Etihad from Gulf Airlines. So what specifically would those products be?
It's basically all these major products, like to differentiate in-flight services and your market approach, and basically all how you cater to the different market through different channels, your brand as a whole. So these are the things.
In terms of the airlines, the foreign airlines that are operating in our country, we've got Etihad, which is one of the best airlines, and it won a lot of awards in the Best Airlines Awards of Nepal a month or so ago. Doesn't your heart ache when you find out that we've been blacklisted from the EU, for instance, because our carriers can't really fly into the European countries, and we've been put on a ban, say, since I think it's 2030.
Mm-hmm.
So does that sometimes not rankle you?
Obviously, it does. Obviously, we also want our airlines to, take up to that level, at least, have major international destinations. And that's where we all stakeholders in our country, especially tourism, civil aviation, needs to work very closely and take this step forward, because we need really expert team who can take the leadership of our Nepal Airlines to take to that level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it needs huge investment as well as the operation side, management, revenue management. So everything comes into picture. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I read that before you became the country manager for Etihad Airlines, there was somebody not from Nepal who was the country manager, right? And you took over that particular figure. So maybe we need foreign experts like that to get domestic airlines running well. And once the system has been properly set, then we can hand it over to the Nepalese citizens in order to run it.
Well, I think we can have our own Nepalese person who can lead that. It's not like we don't have that capabilities and all. But when it comes to Nepal Airlines, I mean national airlines, then there are a lot of politics, happens there. So this needs to be without the politics. It needs to be the organization that fully functions, and the whoever is taking charge of it should be given the authority or the empowerment to take this decisions on right time and right way. So it's not only like some experts will have to come and fix the things like that. So our own resources can do that.
You said that you're in the airlines business for about 2 decades or more.
Yeah.
How did you really how did you have first the inclination to work in the aviation sector?
Well, I was very interested in meeting people, exchanging cultures, and I like to help people. So that nature, I was an extrovert, and my sister-in-law used to work with Gulf Air that time back in 2000. So yeah, seeing her, I also wanted to do some kind of job where I can interact with customers. Customer relationships was something like I was interested in. And that's how I got a job at Gulf Air. I was studying that time. And yeah, and then further I continued there. And after spending like 2-3 years in reservation, I moved on to sales and marketing. And that's how I know my clients and travel companies.
So you started to work in the year 2000, or did you work before the year?
Yeah, it was 2000. Yeah, 2000. Yeah.
Change.
End of 1990. Yeah, exactly.
One of the big fears that people had when the year 2000 came about was that there were a lot of astrologers, not simply in Nepal, but outside, who predicted that there would be the end of the world in the year 2000. And here we are, 23 years or so later. We also had this in 2012, I think, there were a lot of movies that were made. Right. There were a lot of Chinese astrologers who were predicting that the world might come to an end in 2012, and it's still functioning pretty well.
Of course.
But what are some of the changes that despite the fact that you work in an international airlines, you still are based in our country, right? So what are some of the most dramatic changes that you've seen from the year 2000, say, up to 2023?
Oh my God. Obviously, when it comes to the big change, I can just think of the massive earthquake we had in 2015. And during that time, all the flights were stopped, aircraft, and airport was closed. So that was the biggest hard time. Though airport was closed, we still have this kind of aid, like chartered flights going on. So there were a lot of tons of help materials, and all the support items needed was there through different channels, different embassies of different countries. So that part was kind of new thing for us, and in a big way. A lot of our colleagues were affected, of course, and our head office was constantly in touch with us. The communication was very strong that time, and we also had a very good relation with our UAE embassy here. So that also helped a lot to get the flight approvals for the charter flights and all. So we were able to do all the help and aid through UAE. government. Yeah. So obviously next was this pandemic. It started end of 2020. Unfortunately, we had to stop the scheduled flights after that, and we're still doing the charter flights for repatriations, especially for UAE nationals and other nationals. We were doing these flights, connecting flights onward. And these were the major changes, and a lot of airlines pull out of their flight operations to Nepal. And basically, the airlines were also looking into the cost minimization and route optimization, and they were pulling out the flights where they were not able to, sustain this particular route for a longer time, and they were also looking for a cost minimization option. So operating a different aircraft as per the seasonality and all. So these things were there. And we can see that Thai Airways also pull out, and Thai Smile came now. So similarly, Etihad pull out, but Etihad and Air Arabia joint venture, which is Air Arabia Abu Dhabi, they started operating. So it was like both budget and full service airlines. It's combination kind of hybrid model. So yeah.
One of the things that rankled me about the pandemic, and especially the domestic airlines, was that they've stopped giving chocolates that they used to give.
Yeah.
They said that, now the chocolates might be contagious, you might catch COVID-19, and they stopped giving the basic services such as a bottle of drinking water. They'd provide you with a packet of nuts, a few chocolates that you could take it to somebody and give them as gifts, but they've stopped that completely. And much of it might have been down to, as you said, cost optimization. But were there any cutting off the jobs in your department when the COVID hit Nepal?
Well, if we started doing this job cuts way earlier than COVID time. So we're already very lean operation here. We call it RSS, right shape and right size. So it was already there. So no further cuts actually for us. They just pulled out the station. So that was the big cut itself. Yeah, but looking back to the scenario, obviously we all know what happened in the aviation industry. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and now even the airlines are not able to have the regular flights because they don't have the crew, the trained people there. So that's the challenge they're facing, and because of that also they're not able to operate certain flights. So yeah, obviously every other airlines have this job cuts and all, but we had this, they did this way earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And touching upon your point about the Nepalese, the earthquake that took place in Nepal in 2015, I think. One of the things that astounds me is that despite all of the aftershocks that we're still getting, how does an aircraft really fly, given that there's a lot of ground movement? Do they not really monitor the state of that?
Yeah, obviously, our technical team and they are aware of all these facts, and we were still operating the flight because that's been taken care of. And obviously, if there was any security threat or something like that, then we would not be operating. So we used to have the zero tolerance. I mean, we still have that. I cannot say we because I'm no longer with Etihad now, but yeah, the safety security measures is our top priority.
Did you also have a chance to work in some relief campaigns? Because a lot of non-governmental organizations, international non-governmental organizations, also had a lot of relief programs that were organized in terms of distribution of food, necessary things.
Yeah, of course, because I'm very passionate about the social work myself. So I'm involved in this couple of organizations, a couple of NGOs. So we work closely, especially in certain areas where there was a maximum impact of earthquake. So we were in Sindhupal Chowk. So we also got help from our CSR division to collect some, funds, and we provided that to our Prime Minister Relief Fund. And at the same time, we also had our team who voluntarily wanted to, come and help these schools students with all these necessary items they can provide. So I coordinated that, and I myself was very much involved in that.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we did when the earthquake struck was we didn't stay in our homes. We had temporary shelters very close to what is collectively known as the UN Park somewhere in Lalitpur. And there was a massive congregation of people who were really scared to even go home, eat properly. We knew that I, for example, went to my house only in order to cook, to eat, and then I ran as soon as it was possible. How was it like working in that frenzied atmosphere of the earthquake?
So that actually gave us the realization is how important the life is at the current moment you live in. And there should be, we as a human being needs to have our own core values and reflect upon like what we were missing upon. And we had this very communal feeling. And obviously when it comes to work also, we were very cooperative with each other. So all my team were there to help and support each other in every possible ways. So that time we had this kind of very strong bonding and we were resilient together. So I think that is something, something good that sometimes when the situation like such occurs, there's a lot of learning point for you.
Yeah. And were many of the flights cancelled as a result?
Yeah, flight cancellations was there, of course. But it was not that as the pandemic hit, and flight was still happening that time. So there were like a lot of reliefs materials coming through, and people who are stuck here, they wanted to go back to their country. That kind of expatriate movements also happened. So that was a regular kind of thing was happening. We were also helping people to reach their destinations as much as possible, even though we were operating less flights.
Yeah, well, one of the things that rankled me when it came to the pandemic was that a lot of people had to pay double of the prices they were paying in order to simply get into a particular type of airline. I'm not pointing fingers at any particular airlines, but I had this news, and this was told to me by a very close friend of mine who paid just to get to the United States of America, now with a price that was double of what would normally be charged. So has that got to do with a lack of operation of the airlines? Because when the airlines doesn't really operate as regularly, the operation cost was increased, and that would put a burden on the passenger.
Yeah, definitely it does. Because since you've already mentioned it was not a scheduled flight, and there is a whole lot of cost involved for the charter operations. You've got to pay a lot of money for landing, parking, and all these arrangements here at the airport. And charter is like one way, like especially people are traveling from here, so they wanted to have a charter from here. So if we're not getting inbound as strong as outbound, then obviously the cost will go up. And on top of that, there were some obviously other companies involved. It was not like airlines doing charter on their own without involving some travel companies. So they also take their margin there. So that way, some cases where there was very heavy amount of money to be paid. But overall, because of the operation cost also is very high, and the airlines will have their certain cost minimum that needs to be paid for such kind of flights. So because of that also the cost might go up.
So you're not involved in any airlines as of now?
Well, now I'm in a travel company. I've invested in travel company. It's called Sailings groups of companies. Yeah, we have Sailings Travel, Sailings Holidays. We also have ticketbandar.com as our online booking engine. So I'm involved with all the airlines now. Earlier I was particularly with Etihad, but now I'm looking after, obviously we as a travel company will have to look into a lot of airlines as our partner airlines. So it's a mix of budget airlines and full service airlines, and a lot of other stuffs as well as a travel company. So yeah, it's cool experience actually. It's good to know how the travel agency operates. So earlier it was aviation, but now you've got to know how your travel partner works and how can you take it further. I'm just enjoying this new experience as well.
we generally tend to be very negative about our country. But one of the positives, as you've pointed out, is that you've now started to work in the travel business. You might have a lot of domestic travelers who go in outside, spending their holidays. It means that the country is getting progressively better in terms of its economy, and that people have got a lot more money to spend. They're going on these exotic destinations.
Yeah.
So working in a travel agency would be sending people from our country to countries outside Nepal, or do you also do travel inside?
Yeah. So we have both inbound and outbound through our company Ceilings Holidays. So we started with outbound moments back it was in 2015 when people started going to destinations where they enjoy the holidays, vacations like beaches and all, which we don't have in our country. So there was a very much trend of people going abroad, spending their vacations with families, friends. So that's how like Ceilings Holidays also started. We also have now inbound division, which is now focusing basically for bringing the tourist in our country. So we do packages for inbound as well, promoting Nepal as a destination.
So I worked as a travel writer for a few companies that are based in our country itself. I sometimes had to write about Annapurna Base Camp, Everest Base Camp, places like these in order to lure people into getting there. So do you also use tools of writing packages like these in order to lure more people to come to our country, maybe?
Yes, of course. That's something that we are working upon. We've got to be very strong digitally now with this, innovations and coming up with a lot of new ideas, and how do we capitalize on the market that we wanted to target and, tap in. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. So basically, since we were already there for the outbound market, that is something that we're very strong at. Just taking care of the inbound also in a similar way will take some time, but we are working on those areas where we can, focus our target market and our approach to go on digitally.
So what are the most preferred destinations for Nepalese? The Nepalese who go through Ceilings Holidays. What are some of the most popular destinations that people want to go to?
Yeah, so when it comes for vacation, it's obviously when the destinations which doesn't have that hassles of getting visa will be the first preferred destination. They can easily apply the visa and go. So Dubai, of course, everybody loves to go to Dubai. Maldives is another one. Sri Lanka, even India, Goa and Nicobar, Andaman Islands. There are these kind of destinations with lovely sea beaches and all. So people enjoy this. So these are the top destinations, I must say.
I know that the contribution of the aviation sector to the global warming or the general emissions of carbon dioxide is about only 2 to 3%.
Mm-hmm.
But with the rise of so much travel between countries and within a country itself, I think that sometimes we do really take a look at how to make travel sustainable. For instance, as far as I know, there have not been a lot of innovation in the aviation sector. I mean, if you take a look at cars, for example, we now have the concept of electric vehicles. We never know when an electric plane is due. We never hear things like that. So don't you think that we should take a step forward in order to mitigate our emissions as well? Or how does an Etihad Air, or for example, Boeing, is working on getting the greenhouse emissions down? So sometimes as a there are a few travel companies in Nepal as well which work in something that's known as sustainable travel. They work on ensuring that your carbon footprint is completely neutralized. And is that a particular emphasis outside our country, or is it something that is insular to our countries?
I must say now aviation industry is also very much gearing up. They have the long-term vision of, zero carbon emission as well. So they're using a lot of alternatives, energies, biofuels, and even the aircraft types. So more going into the greener future. So they are being realistic in that sense, and they're also coming up their own innovative ideas of how, they are approaching with their loyal travelers to contribute certain, for the greener economy and for this, sustainable aviation. So, but obviously we need more in this area. There must be some long-term, visions on that. Yeah, and the airlines, I can see the airlines are also very much concerned about their operations part and minimizing the flying hours and getting this aircraft load under control for burning less fuel. So there are ways happening there. It's not like it's not happening there, but obviously the pace needs to be upscale. Yeah.
And I was reading that only about $86 or $87 million of market share is occupied by aviation biofuel, and this is expected to increase to about 3,000 million by the year 2027. And I think that if you take a look at that projection, I think that we're on a very good path, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Airlines are also being very mindful of their sustainability projects. So they are tying up with a lot of other projects that have a similar vision to take it a long way.
Yeah. Me and my video editor, Rupesh, the two of us, and a wonderful cameraman as well. We were working on a small project that was termed FlygScam, and it was a term that originated in Sweden, popularized by the activist Greta Thunberg. FlygScam generally means flight shaming, to shame people who take a flight.
Oh my God.
And after she popularized the movement, about 100,000 people in Sweden joined another movement that was known as We Stay on the Ground. In other words, we take trains, we take buses, but we say no to the aviation sector as much as possible. I know that it would be very impractical for anybody to not take an airlines, but we can do a few things that are generally not done in our country. If you take a look at the life of the person on whom we based the movie Three Idiots, the role of Amir Khan, that is, Phung Suk Wangdu, who is really known as Sonam Wangchuk. And he takes the initiative to plant as many trees as possible as soon as he takes a flight. He minimizes the amount of flight he takes, and even if he takes, say, a flight that costs 5,000, he automatically arranges a fund, 10% of the flight. So 500 rupees would go to tree plantation schemes. So I think these are some of the little things that we could work on in order to minimize that. But sometimes I feel that our country doesn't really bother about these issues.
Yeah, if you look into our aviation, especially, we are not that strong in terms of our reach and our connectivity for the international markets. But within the Nepal, so domestic airlines are taking steps forward. They're tying up with UN to have this kind of less impact for the environment and greener economy. But this awareness needs to be there. Travelers as well. So that's where the airlines needs to come up with very innovative ideas to make them mindful of their initiatives on this.
And we can't really say that there are no initiatives at all. When I worked in the Nepalese Academy of Science and Technology along with this camera person that is here, we had a department of, I think it was environment, where they practice in the manufacturing of biofuel.
Right.
So they were particularly focused on manufacturing biodiesel so that you could run automobile in a way that minimizes our carbon footprint. So sometimes it's not, the positives are not really talked about in our country as well. So there might be we took a look at the accident that took place in January 15th when the Etihad 72 crashed, and everybody was saying Nepal is so bad in terms of its aviation sector. But I think that there are a few good initiatives that we're taking as well. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, of course. We have airlines like Buddha Air, how they have maintained this SMS of their in such a way that people have that brand and that trust, and also they've been doing good because they've started operating in a very trunk routes, which may not all the airlines, domestic airlines, could have done that. So they have their own challenges there.
I mean, they operate in particularly risky areas such as Jomsom, where a normal person wouldn't take the risk.
Exactly. So that also needs to be acknowledged.
So there are a lot of aspiring females who want to get into the aviation sector. What are some of the ways that they can get into it?
Well, first of all, they need to be very clear on their vision about in life, their aim and objective. So if they are really interested in aviation field, then they should have the knowledge of this field, how it works. They should join some kind of academics where they are taught about this industry, and then there are a lot of replacements and the internship opportunities out there. So they have to keep themselves updated with this.
And I think that it's better for the females out there to take a look at people like you or Twinkle Man, for example, because whenever we think of women in the aviation field, we generally think that women can only be cabin crew, because that's the sort of image that's been implanted on us, and we don't really know that females can become station managers, country managers.
Of course. It's about leadership. So, yeah, you've got to be, obviously interested on what you're doing first. You've got to be passionate about your job, and then you should be very determined as well to take the steps forward. Not just because you are a woman, you will not get priority, but you've got to fight for your, thing. I mean, it won't be easy in life anyways. Whatever you do, there's a lot of struggles and challenges coming across, so you've got to face that.
Yeah, and especially after, I think, the Me Too movement, a lot of women have had the space to open up about the wrongs that they've been through in their workplace. If you take a look at job vacancies, they write it explicitly that they'll not be discriminating against women or marginalized people. So I think the time is getting more and more auspicious for a female to join the aviation sector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's woman and aspiring woman who wants to lead the career in the aviation field or in any other fields. They've got to be very particular, very, very specific with exactly their requirements, their wants, and then how do they further nourish their learnings and talents, and adapt to the situations they are in. So they can do. I mean, women are especially very empathic. They can sympathize with people, and they can do multitasking, and they're very creatives as well. So these are all qualities, attributes for aviation industry.
And one of the myths that we have is that only a particular type of course can get you into the aviation sector. That is not necessarily true. When I was talking to Twinkle Ma'am, she was somebody who was involved in the programming sector. She was a programmer of a few applications before she got into there. You obviously have a different background compared to her, maybe?
Yeah.
And now we've got a lot of aircraft maintenance engineers who are making it. We also have cabin crew. So the opportunities are there for a lot of people to get in the aviation sector.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you should be interested first, and then it should be like, how much you are willing to give your time and efforts to get into the job that you so wanted, I mean, aviation industries and all. So it needs to come from your heart, and then you should be working towards it as well. So there are opportunities for, a young woman who wants to have the career in aviation industry. So there are a lot of options, the online thing. So today's world is very innovative, and we have everything in our tips of finger. So it's I think your determination and your how you further take your steps to make that thing happen.
So what are some of the challenges that you currently face in your work as somebody who encourages people to travel, go see exotic destinations, learn about different languages, culture as a result, and become a bit broad-minded? We only tend to see the very good sides of a particular type of job, but there might be a few things that rankles you, something that gets on your nerves, something that you really think might be improved?
Well, what kind of challenges you mean to say?
Say, for example, I am primarily a writer and a speaker, and sometimes I've got to read volumes and volumes of books in order to get a piece out. There is a certain kind of boredom that comes along. I mean, there's the good side of it. People listen to you and say, he's such a wonderful speaker, he's such a wonderful writer, and there's a bit of the glam and a bit of the biz. But sometimes the boredom is something that I really hate. Sometimes I wish I could get out of my room and learn all of these books and go to people and meet them as regularly as possible. So sometimes the good and the bad is balanced together, as they say. As was written by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, that the line dividing good and bad cuts through the heart of every human being. So I think that the line dividing the good and bad would also cut through every profession, maybe.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and that does. I don't see that much of challenges there because, you see difficult things, and I take that as an opportunity for me. So we have in travel, we have a lot of competition obviously in the market. There are a lot of travel agencies. That's something that we want to differentiate from others. Is like we have our very own way of how do we take things forward, like our values and our ethos. So that, and also making a brand itself, investing in people that we are as one team, and focusing on customers first, and prioritizing the things that we want to get, like for certain segments in the market. So basically, if you follow these things, then you can get through different challenges.
Well, there are a lot of places in our country which are extremely beautiful. Say, for example, the district of Dolpa, which is thought to be a heaven and can be vouched for by this guy who stayed there for a year. What are some of the challenges that we have in order to expand some of these exotic, remote places in our country and get them into the poster boy sort of figure that we have? Say, Lukla now, Wanamche Bazaar, or Everspace Camp is really accessible. And we've got thousands of people who come there. We have the Annapurna Base Camp, where thousands and thousands of people come there. But we've got these very secluded parts in our country, such as Dolpa, which despite having a lot of despite having an airport, is not really developed. There are still places which takes about 7 or 8 days within a district.
Right.
So how could...
Accessibility is very important here. How do you get there? And there are a lot of safety and security concern as well. Though the destination itself is awesome, we all love to be there. We love that. We can promote that. But reaching out there, our transportations, our flight services, as you know, we have a lot of hurdles there. We can market the destination in such a way, infrastructure also plays a very important. These are the major challenges. But not everyone would like to visit Dolpa, right? So we've got to be very mindful of what kind of target audience and customers that we are focusing and targeting on, and what kind of reach that we want to do there to get those kind of traffic there. So it depends upon our approach. So we need more into marketing this kind of place in a different way to a different audience.
And I think that those kind of places should also be accessible by maybe road transportation.
Exactly.
Because nobody's going to come and walk for 7 days.
Yeah, right.
Not everybody. I mean,
true.
There will be people.
There will be, exactly. So that's why, even though we have so many beautiful places, we really want to promote that, but that may not be suitable for every type of people. So we've got to be very, mindful of how do we promote that destination for what kind of, customers that they want to take that risk of being there. It's very unpredictable, right? Our climate, the roads, everything is so unpredictable. So for someone who really, wants to take all this risk and be there, it's a different story again. So it's not like they're not that kind of people as well.
I mean, still, where plane crashes take place in a particular country, it doesn't really help with the mindset of the tourists. we had this documentary that was put on by DW, a very good channel, over on YouTube. And they made a 13-minute long documentary about the recent plane crash that took place in Pokhara. And I was surfing through a lot of comments on YouTube, and there were a lot of people outside Nepal who said, I'm never going to take a flight in Ireland. And it was a very sad thing to read, in that so many beautiful places in our country are not going to be accessible because we've got incidents like these, and these take place here.
That
is a matter of cry and shame.
Yeah. But see, within certain time, people will tend to forget all about this because you've got to move on with life. Well, life moves on. There are a lot of these kind of accidents happen in other countries as well. So how do we, make more of positive out of that? It should be something that we've got to look upon now, and then, promote, like market Nepal as destinations for different segments. Like we have adventure, we have nature, we have culture, so many things. So that needs to be promoted.
On that wonderful note of promoting our country, our culture, our aviation sector, we wish all the best for Sealing Holidays.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karan. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you.